Well, hello, listeners. Welcome back to Run Brevard, Running Zones podcast. I am one of your hosts, Katie Parsons, and I am here with John Carr and Pete Vaughn. And if you're watching us on YouTube or at runbrevard.com, you can see that we are socially distanced for this episode, as we have been since the coronavirus pandemic came into play. But that doesn't mean that we aren't just as excited to be here and be hanging out and talking to all of you. This is our November 2020 edition, which means, guys, that it is Marathon Month, as well as Turkey Trot Month. Yay! So lots of exciting updates. A lot has happened since our last episode, which we are going to talk about a little later. But we also have a great interview today with Bryan Jenkins from RunSignup, and he's going to talk to us about running in the time of coronavirus and event management. So I'm really looking forward to that. I will have to hop off right before that interview. My daughter Amelia is running in a track championship this morning, so I'm heading over to Satellite. And I'll update you next month on how that goes. We'll be listening to Bryan's interview along with the rest of you. So ask really, guys, make sure you don't let him off easy. I want to hear all the answers. But other than that, what have you all been up to? John, what's been going on in your world?
Mostly just work. There's a lot, like you said, it's marathon month, so there's a lot of prep to do. Pete and I were spraying mile markers on the course this past weekend, actually. So, that we've got the online Space Coast shop up now. We've, yesterday was the cutoff for people to switch to virtual or in person on their own. We can still make the changes, up until race day. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. A lot of work to do. Of course, Katie and I worked a race last night, Space Coast Light Fest, which was fun. That's actually the first time I've worked Light Fest, and we talked about it briefly, but I've actually never gone to see the lights, even though like Wickham Park is like a quarter mile from my house. So I maybe I'll have to take the wife and we'll take a little car trip this year.
You should take the dogs too. They'll like it. They can just like look out the window. I actually haven't been in a few years because going after dark over the bridge with all the kids just always seems like too much. But I think they're old enough this year that, we can go at 7 p.m. or whatever and it'll be fine. But we had fun. We missed you, Pete. I know you really missed us, but
I'd be lying if I said I did.
It's okay.
But that's my one opt-out of the race calendar year.
Yeah, fair enough. You work all the other ones, and we are all going to be busy the next couple of weeks, that's for sure, and into the rest of the year. But what else, in addition to opting out of the Light Fest?
Nothing. Just we just chasing Amelia around and getting ready for Space Coast Marathon weekend and kind of end of the year. Retail gets kind of a little cuckoo at the end of the year. So we hired another person. So John and I have been getting her up to speed in the store, and we just trying to get ready for everything. I did want to point out though that Laura absolutely just couldn't stop laughing when I showed her the text you sent me last night that John was running around like a lunatic because I wasn't there. And so I'm glad he got a taste of what it's like to be Pete at the race.
I said it in a very nice way. I said, John did a great job, but he was running around like crazy. And that John himself said, I was Pete tonight.
Yep.
That's exactly how the conversation
went. It. Yeah. Cause usually I'm not the one, hitting marker at the finish line and stuff like that. I'm usually in the timing booth by that point. So I have a little bit more of a stationary experience than the normal Pete experience at a race. So
Thunderdome.
Yeah. But it was good. I think everything went well.
That's so funny. That's great. Yeah, it was fun and not much going on here. Just still in quarantine with the family, and had our first quarantine child who came home for 2 weeks from school. She did not get sick, tested negative for COVID. But our first taste of like what that's like when you switch from the in-person to the e-learning kind of suddenly. And but it went okay. And we expected that when we put our kids in person. So, so far just 1 of 5, and it's almost the end of the year. So can't really complain. And thankfully, the student who did test positive near her is feeling better and had a pretty mild case. So that's also good news. Mm. So all of that is exciting, but doesn't really compare to something that's kind of gone down since the last time we recorded. I don't know, Pete or John, if you want to take this, but this announcement that the store has had in recent weeks.
Yeah. So longtime Running Zone Foundation board member Jim Van Veen owns a race management company in Vero, which we recently purchased from him. So we're expanding our events into Vero Beach area, Indian River County. So we'll have a foundation race series in Vero next year, as well as the current series, Running Zone Foundation series. So the plan currently is to have a Run Brevard series and a Run Vero series, with Run Vero being the current name of that race management company down there, and kind of what they called their series as well. We want to continue the name, continue the awesome events, and build on them, and host a lot of those same races that Vero's used to having, and also adding some of our own. So we're looking forward to kind of heading down to Vero as well, and meeting some awesome people, and kind of seeing how it goes.
We'll lend out the name Run Brevard from the podcast to the series for a small finder's fee.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of rolls off the tongue. So I feel like, for giving it away, like, we'll have to get something in return. I don't know. We'll figure all that out. But we do want to make sure people know about all the Vero races too. So if you listen to this podcast, you'll be hearing about some of those. And, Vero is not very far. So it's kind of nice that there'll be some options there, where you don't have to go to Orlando necessarily to go do a really well-run event outside of the county. So I know I'm really looking forward to it. That was a fun email to get to our staff before it was announced. We also had the Ghostly Gecko 5K, and there were 635 in-person finishers and 152 virtual. And David McCullum was first overall, and he 16:20, and Caitlin Donner was our first female overall with 17:27. And Running Zone's fit specialist also ran. Charlie Dickinson was third overall with 17:02. And Maggie was second in her age group at 28:36. So we had some pretty good showings out there. My daughter Amelia ran it in 26:4, and my daughter London ran it in 37:09. London was fun running, and she did have a lot of fun. Earlier in the day, friends of ours invited Amelia to go with them because they knew I was working. But the teens in the group were all going to dress like bananas. And she did not want to do this because she didn't understand like how she was supposed to run fast dressed as a banana. So she didn't. But London, who, went with her mom and met us there, found the banana group and ended up finishing with them. So it was kind of a full circle, kind of fun. I had a good time. A lot of people were out there. I thought people did a good job spacing out. That's a really good that O'Galley Civic area where everyone can move around. Race managers, we did a Wizard of Oz theme this year. You guys can just call me Dorothy if you want. And that was a lot of fun. You guys didn't dress up.
We did not.
Right?
Mm-mm.
What happened?
I mean, we didn't really hear anything about the group costume idea until really the day of. Well, I got a text from Ann Mitchell that said, "Hey, do you happen to have any suspenders that I can borrow?" And so I totally
normal question to ask someone.
Yeah, I mean, I figured it was costume related, but at that point, I didn't even know what the theme
that
was.
Most people own. Yes.
Yeah. I fortunately had a very nice pair of red suspenders. They're my Christmas suspenders, so they usually come out every year around Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So I'll probably be pulling those out later this year.
You should wear them for the December episode, just so that the fans can know exactly what's going on. I didn't know about the costume either till like last minute. Thankfully, there was one at the store for Dorothy that I just threw on. But also, Pete, your family was out there. Laura, Amelia, and your mom walked. How did they enjoy it?
So far, so good. They one of the first, or I don't know, second or third races that Amelia has done. But sounded like everybody had a good time. She liked looking at all the lights. We're big into lights these days. Every light has to be on everywhere. And so when they finished, we had the strobe light kind of deal in the structure, and she was very interested in that. And so it got dark pretty, not early, but we'd started it a little earlier than we normally do to give people a little bit more light. But it was definitely dark at the tail end of the race. But yeah, good reports from them.
You should have brought her to Light Fest last night. She would have loved the lights.
We're on an early bedtime now, and it's kind of glorious. Yeah, we're on like a 6:30 p.m. bedtime.
Well, I mean, it was a 6 o'clock start. Yeah, you would have had plenty of time.
Well, luckily you live nearby. You can still take her early, super early. That
sounds like a grandma and grandpa kind of thing.
Potentially, yeah. But then they get all the glory. But I mean, that's okay.
That's okay.
You're fine with that. You'll pass it right along.
I put together a play set for her, so I did my duty this weekend.
Wow. How long did that take you?
Not long. It was one of those, like the step 2 is the company, and like all the pieces just like kind of fit together, and you just like screw a couple screws in at the end. So it was a Christmas present from grandma that she gave to us in September. And I was looking at the box and looking at the dimensions of the, there's like a little platform where you stand on before you go down the slide. And I was worried that Amelia was going to be too tall to stand up in it. And she hits her head on the ceiling already. So
oh no.
We had a doctor's appointment last
Christmas
week.
At this point.
Yeah. So we got to get our use out of it now. We had a doctor's appointment, and she's still over the 100th percentile of height. So she's too tall for her own good. She can reach a lot of things she should not be reaching right now.
Oh, yeah. She's very tall, but very happy. So that's good. We saw her at our little staff get together, and she was just happy as can be, telling everyone to leave, saying go to everyone.
Yep.
But in a nice way. But you might have a little bouncer on your hands. I mean, she's tall, she's authoritative, like who knows? Maybe she needs like a little t-shirt that's like toddler bouncer or something like that.
Security.
I'll have to look into that. Christmas coming. Yeah, security. Oh my gosh, that would be really, really funny. Might have to find that for her. So that was a really great event. I felt like everything went as it should. And I know our next series event is the Jingle Bell 2-miler. So that'll be great. We'll be talking about that next month because before that, we have a lot going on. We have the Space Coast Marathon and Half Marathon and our Turkey Trot. So I don't know, which one do you guys want to talk about first?
Go chronological.
Yeah, let's do Turkey Trot.
Turkey Trot. What do you want to say about Turkey Trot, John?
So I think one thing that a lot of people really enjoy, and they're always making sure they got hit the mark after they finished, was the pumpkin pie challenge. And we actually did some pie testing yesterday. After some of the staff left, we remembered that we had a pumpkin pie in the fridge to test out. So we took some of the feedback from last year's pies, and we wanted to make them better. So we did some research, and we got a different one in for this year. So we were testing out. I think the feedback was very positive on this pie. So we're excited to have a different pie this year. And we'll have a rolling start for both the 5K, 10K race. It'll be Front Street Civic Center on, of course, Thanksgiving morning. Beneficiary is West Shore PTA and Fantastic Farms 4-H. And, as always, it's always a great Thanksgiving tradition. We do have some Turkey Trot apparel in the store as well. You can always check that out.
Here we go.
Online also, but that hat is definitely my favorite. It's a new Brooks hat. It's got an awesome
for stuffing.
Turkey sweating.
That's great. And will Mr. Gobbles be back at the event? I like that shirt too.
This year, it doesn't appear that Mr. Gobbles will be there.
Gotcha.
He has to stay home due to COVID regulations.
Yeah.
You don't want Mr. Gobbles to get COVID.
also you don't want all the people congregating around Mr. Gobbles. So, but that's great that we're able to do the pumpkin pies, obviously individually wrapped. So it looks like to get a pumpkin pie, you have to run the 5K under 28 minutes and you have to run the 10K under 50 minutes.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. So we'll have those at the finish line ready for you to take home to your family.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's great. So then Thanksgiving Day, what are you guys up to? Sorry. It said my internet was unstable for a second. On Thanksgiving, what are your plans and what are you guys most looking forward to? I know last year we talked about like our favorite foods for Thanksgiving, but let's like remind listeners, what we like to do that day.
Yeah. So I think I'll be going to my in-laws' house, Courtney's parents' house. Usually we end up going to like two different houses, but I think my family's actually not doing Thanksgiving on Thursday this year because there's a basketball tournament at Eastern Florida that my brother and dad will both be working. It's some kind of NCAA tournament that was supposed to happen in like Bahamas. I think they got rescheduled for here, and this is one of the event locations it's taking place in. So they'll be out pretty much all Thanksgiving. So we're going to catch Thanksgiving another day over there. But it should be a good day after working Turkey Trot, of course. How about you, Pete?
Catching as much rest as I possibly can, gearing up for the weekend. And the Ravens play on Thanksgiving night this year, so it'll be trying to get a nap during the day so I can stay up and watch the game and then get back at it for Space Coast weekend.
And what about you, Katie?
Yeah. We're going to stay here. We were going to go to South Florida after I worked the Turkey Trot just for the night. But with COVID cases spiking and my kids in school, we just decided that probably wasn't a great idea to go stay with the grandparents right now. And they understand. Hopefully in a couple months, we'll be able to spend a little more time with them. So yeah, we're going to just hang out here. I joked that we're just going to order Chinese food because I don't really want to make all that food by myself, but we'll see. Sometimes I get like a little bug to like bake and plan a menu and do all this stuff. So I don't know. I might be posting pictures of like awesome Thanksgiving Day food, but we'll be here. Also gearing up for marathon weekend. It's a really busy weekend for my husband too. So it's like a double whammy because of college football, especially this year. So he works sometimes on Thanksgiving, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So busy work weekend around here, but I'm looking forward to the Turkey Trot and of course marathon, the most wonderful day of the year. And not just for the people running, for us too. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know this year's marathon will look different from every other year before, but if you've been to some of our recent races, it'll be similar. So what are some of the safety protocols that are in place this year?
Well, of course, like all of our events, we are requiring masks at the start. So everyone is expected to show up wearing a mask. We do, of course, have disposable masks that we can hand out as well. We'll have plenty of those for people who maybe forgot one, lost theirs. We are actually doing a corral start this year for the first time, where there's 8 different corrals with different assigned start times. The first 4 are going north. So you got your marathoners and your north half marathoners. And they're assigned based on expected finish time. So they're designed so that people aren't constantly passing each other through the race. You got the quicker people up front, slower people in the back. And then the second 4 are all going south. So corrals E through H, also with assigned start times based on expected finish time. So there's going to be different like staging areas for those corrals. So not everyone is just in their corral at the start line, basically. Get them all spaced out throughout Cocoa Village. And then as they get closer to the start time, their corral will move toward the start. So just keeping everyone spaced out so you don't have, these big mass gathering of people. So we're just doing the best we can to keep people spread out and provide a safe event. So those are a couple of them. We're also not going to be doing an award ceremony at the race, so people aren't congregating for that. We will have an awards tent, kind of like how we did at Red Carpet. So you can check the results online, which will be updated periodically throughout the morning. If you want an award, you can go to where the awards tent, grab your award, and go party or go home.
Yeah, just trying to eliminate touch points whenever we can and stuff like that. We're lucky enough that Lee Wenner Park and Riverfront Park, we've got a lot of room there to spread people out. So just as utilizing the space as best we can, and you'll be getting your finisher medal in your packet this year instead of at the finish line. That's just one more interaction that we're getting away from. In addition to having the whole virtual event, so we have that option as well for anybody that either isn't comfortable or can't make it due to travel, or if you're not feeling great, you can always do the virtual.
Yep. And we can always, like we said, the deadline to switch yourself was yesterday, but we have the ability to switch people back and forth from events up until race day. So if anyone needs to make any changes, we can take care of that for you. Another
lots
thing,
of safe options, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yep. And another one of the things we changed this year was we're not having the big expo at the convention center. We are having a small expo. It's mainly just packet pickup and officially branded Space Coast Marathon merchandise that'll be available in Cocoa Village, basically at the Civic Center the day before the race. But you can shop all of those items online now on our Shopify site. So we have links from the Running Zone site. If you go to our store, there's links to each individual collection. You've got Running Zone Foundation events. You got Space Coast Marathon apparel. You've got Run Brevard apparel. And accessories, of course. Pete held up that beautiful Tervis a second ago. You get the masks, pint glasses, you get some awesome apparel.
Designed by John Carr.
I may or may not have photoshopped a NASA logo for some of this year's merchandise. So I think it turned out pretty good. And a lot of it looks really, really awesome. And thank you again to Andy Dutra and Krista, who is modeling for us. Appreciate it.
I love all the new look for everything. I want to get all the things for myself, and I probably will. And was that mask branded, or was that
It is.
It is a Space Coast mask. Yep.
Okay. All right.
So you get the rocket,
definitely have to
the
get
Space Coast logo,
before.
and the picture of the Earth in the background.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely will have to get one of those before
the lunar surface
race day. Great. Yep. So even if you aren't participating in the marathon or half marathon this year, there's some great, and if you've done it in the past or you're just a fan, there's some great things that you can pick up.
We do have previous year stuff available on the website as well. If you missed something from the last couple of years, or you want anything that's in the challenge, we're on year 3 of the 4-year challenge. So we have that stuff on there as well as our Run Brevard logo apparel, and our Running Zone logoed apparel is on there as well.
And you can find that by going just to runningszone.com, and then there's a button for the online store. What's the best way to get there?
If you go to runningszone.com and click our store, there's links there to the Shopify site, or you can go to runningszonemelbourne.myshopify.com, and that'll take you directly to it, to the full shop.
Great. And is there anything else new in the store right now before the holidays, or is it a lot of just marathon stuff right now?
We do have a couple new apparel items from Brooks. We got some new bras, shorts, tank tops in for the ladies. Of course, the most recent release shoe-wise was the Brooks Adrenaline GTS 21. A little bit softer cushion along the lateral side of the shoe for a little bit of a softer feel and smoother transition. So I think the model's been well received so far. Not a whole lot of changes from last year's model, so which I think last year's did really great. So people who like last year's should like this one, because if anything, it's just a little bit of a softer feel to it.
A lot of new footwear updates in December and January timeframe. So the next couple episodes, John will get to go full shoe geek on us.
All right. We'll have to stay tuned for that for sure. That'll be great. All right. Well, I head over to the track. So I am going to say goodbye to you guys, but not to you listeners. So hopefully everything goes great with Bryan. Tell him I said hello. And I look forward to hearing the interview. So I will talk to you guys a little later.
All right. And we're back for our interview portion of today's podcast. Katie had to leave to go watch her daughter run in the track meet. We're joined today by Bryan Jenkins, Vice President of Sales with RunSignup. Bryan, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for taking some time with us. Are you at home or are you in the office or elsewhere?
So I'm in the office. So in Richmond, we have about 13 people. The company has about 60 people. Some of them in Philadelphia area, some of them in Richmond, and then kind of dispersed across the country. So in Richmond, we have about, 1,800, 2,000 square feet. And I'm pretty much the only person here. So I get to come into the office and have like 2,000 square feet to myself. So, I've got like a hangout section, a workout section, a working section. It's pretty nice.
Nice.
Sounds ideal. I'm here hiding in Don's office actually because my daughter's running around at home and our empty office is being used today. And Don's taking our usual Monday day off in here. So I'm using his office.
Yeah. So my daughter's homeschooling. So I definitely don't want to be home if I can avoid it. So
yeah, I hear you. So I guess if you want to start off, give us a little bit on your personal background and a little bit about RunSignup and how you got there.
Yeah, so I have been a runner. I started in 8th grade. So in my county, they allowed us to, in 8th grade, you could run junior varsity cross country. And so ran that. I was the worst runner on our team because people that came over for 8th grade were generally pretty talented runners. I was the worst of all of them. And eventually got to the point where I made all state in track and, did okay in cross country and then went on to Lynchburg College, which is a small Division III college. One of our claims to fame is that we do have, we actually recently had someone who made it in 2012 to the Olympic trials and ran 2:12 in the marathon.
Nice.
So pretty quick. And so in college, I was I made all conference a few times. So, not a all-star by any means, but a contributor. Post-collegiately kind of tried to race, somewhat competitively and kind of slowly wore down my Achilles to the point where it got pretty bad where I was limping when I was running. So that kind of ended the competitive portion of my running career. So how I got started with RunSignup is that I worked for a company called Race IT prior to RunSignup. And the story with Race IT is very interesting. And so as I was trying to make yet another comeback from another Achilles injury, I signed up for a local race as a training race for a 10K. And ran the race and got very intrigued with the process of how I got registered. Not really sure why I did, but I just did. And so I clicked around on the website and that was interesting. And I was like, wonder where this company's based. And the company's based in Glen Allen. And Glen Allen is a suburb of Richmond. I live in Glen Allen. So I thought it was pulling my geo address and just saying, oh, we're based where you live, right? Mm-hmm. I'm completely confused by this whole process. So I do some more digging and I find out no, this company is legitimately 2 miles from my house, right? Which is, complete happenstance luck, right? So then I contacted the CEO of RaceIt and said, you should hire me. And they kind of put me off for a while. And then they finally hired me. And I kind of found a unique channel of timers. So, you guys as being an event management and timing company deal with a lot of problems and a lot of events, and you need kind of the software to solve those problems. So it became a natural fit and we really took off. And as Race IT grew, we kind of outgrew the investors that Race IT had. And so they were looking to kind of get out of that investment. So when we got out of that investment, that included going to the competitor group. which owns like the Rock and Roll Marathons and stuff like that. And so when it came over, it became much more corporate. It wasn't something that I was as interested in. I just never really enjoyed working for large companies. I've always enjoyed the benefits of small companies. And so I approached Bob Bickle, the founder of RunSignup, and said, hey, I'm looking to change. And so we made a deal. And then from there at RunSignup, we've had incredible growth, and we've really been able to flush out the dream that I had, which was not just, getting people registering, but being a hub for event organizers. And John and I were talking prior to the recording starting about race day scoring. And that was one of my really big aspirational goals, was to, fundamentally build a software that is the core infrastructure of the running industry and in the endurance industry in general. And we're, not there yet, but we're making very large strides. And so that's been a very rewarding, it's not a financially feasible project, but it's a very rewarding project in that people are using it in the field now. So that's kind of like the full spectrum of, how I started and how I got to where we are.
Yeah. And for us as a race management company, we were a little scared at first, but we figured we would follow you and keep our fingers crossed. And it's been a great transition coming from Race It to RunSignup. And every day John wheels his chair over. We sit 6 to 7 feet apart, and he'll wheel over look at what I can do in race day scoring. I just hit this button instead of doing all the programming in Run Score. And I know, John, yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yep. So you guys are doing a great job with that. So you're not competing anymore, but are you still training for anything, or just go out for your casual runs, or what are you doing these days?
My Achilles is bad enough where I would need a fairly significant surgery. So I had to completely stop running.
Gotcha.
So what I do is I walk, and I walk a lot. What I found is that I can do a lot of my job. Most of my job is talking to people on the phone. So, I know people hate Zoom and all that other stuff. I spend very little of my time doing that. I spend most of my time talking to people on the phone because information right now is a resource. So I help people understand, right now, you guys are in great position to be able to, do the Space Coast Marathon. And it would be awesome to see that, and being able to share that story, and, hopefully that happens with people, is something that is very needed, because not everybody knows about the Space Coast Marathon. Not everybody knows about the successes that you guys have had to build the steps up to be entrusted with being able to do that event. So I have those conversations with people all over the country, and I walk while I'm doing it. So my typical day is I'll walk for 4 hours.
Wow.
Just doing phone calls. And it's well, it sounds hard, and it kind of is in the beginning, but you get used to it, and it allows me to not be sitting in a chair, and it allows me to be outside, which is kind of always been my favorite thing about running. It's just exploring, seeing the sun, the clouds, the rain, the wind, whatever, right? It's, you just have that experience. And so that's how I've kind of, kept my pursuit of endurance. So last week was a low mileage week, and I did 110 miles.
Wow.
It takes a lot of time per se, but I always integrate other things. So I play disc golf, or I go for a hike, do family stuff, but we're always moving.
Yep. So
it's not as taxing as you might think. But I've definitely had people try to do it with me for more than one day, and they just their hips give out. It's okay, we did 17 miles today. Can we stop?
Yikes.
So do you have a go-to walking shoe, or do you rotate to a few?
Yeah, my favorite shoe, hands down, is the Vomero. The Nike Vomero has always treated me really, really well. I have a kind of more of a narrow foot, high arch. So the Vomero is the perfect shoe for me.
Yeah, that current version, I don't have a wide foot per se, but I wouldn't say I have a narrow foot, but yeah, it's definitely narrow through that arch area.
Yeah, and it's not even for me, to give you an idea how narrow my foot is, it doesn't even touch the inside of my foot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when I go to the podiatrist, it's part of the reason why I think I have an Achilles issue, is that my arches are so high that they kind of look like this. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's it. The benefit is that I have a lot of spring. The downside is that I think that's I think one leg is slightly longer than the other. So my left Achilles is constantly getting pulled on, and that's why the surgery is 50-50. So it could help me, or it could be exactly where I am. So that's why I've kind of stayed away from it, is that, my podiatrist said, oh, you could be in a boot for 8 to 12 months and be exactly where you are. It's I don't know about that.
Yeah. There's someone in my neighborhood that that does something similar. I see him walking just loops in our neighborhood, talking to people on the phone. Like, whenever I'm home, I see him out there walking, and so I think there's other people doing that, and I think that's a really cool thing, to be able to get some exercise. And I know some people, like Katie, our other co-host, sometimes she will work while she's on the Peloton. She has a little desk that sits right next to there, and she's also done some stuff while she's like walking on the treadmill. She's been working from home for a long time. But a little bit more, I guess, as you kind of touched on it, where RunSignup is kind of bringing everything together within the endurance industry between registration, scoring, and talk about a little bit about the fundraising side, the GiveSignup, because that's something I'm not too familiar with, but I know there's been a big push recently with it, and helping some of these organizations that weren't able to have their event this year.
Yeah, so one of the things that RunSignup has done is we've continually had more and more nonprofits that have started working with us. So now we have over 9,000 nonprofits that have worked with us, which is a really impressive number. And in the beginning, we just kind of allowed people to make donations, and then we started doing fundraising, and then we could do team fundraising. And what we started realizing is that there was an opportunity to service nonprofits further. So what we've been doing is, especially with nonprofits, is helping them understand that we have this incredible platform that nonprofits can use that's completely free. That's one of the big issues that nonprofits run into, is that a lot of the software they use has a monthly subscription, an annual subscription, et cetera. And we try not to, we as a business don't want to do that. So especially during the pandemic, we've had incredible response. So a lot of nonprofits have had to cancel whatever types of events, whether it's a food festival or a walk, or they've never done any sort of event at all, endurance related. Mm-hmm. They've come to us and been able to launch a campaign and been able to raise money. We've had these, I can't tell you how many stories we've heard where, hey, we weren't sure what to expect. We just went in and set up our event. We were able to build this beautiful website, get a bunch of donations, and we got $15,000 in donations, and we were hoping to get $500, right? So one of the really inspirational stories of this year is that across the board, nonprofits, and I'm not saying every single nonprofit, but a large number have shared with me that people have stepped up and donated more this year. Our donations are up. Obviously, our registrations are down. I don't think that's not, it's pretty obvious that'd be the case, but the donations are up. And that's really just comes from the generosity of people who want to support. And many of these are very small nonprofits, not the major nonprofits that you've heard of. These are ones that are around the corner from you, servicing people in their communities, which is great to hear. And so our platform has been able to provide that conduit of communication. And the really interesting thing too is, if you are a nonprofit listening to this, is that there's a distinct difference in the customer's mind or a donor's mind between a virtual race and selling them a t-shirt. And so if you just say, hey, we're going to sell a t-shirt, you're welcome to do that. What we find is that the response rate is 25%. If you just say, hey, buy our t-shirt, versus, hey, we're doing a virtual race. And even if you don't know what you're doing, you can make some efforts to try to make it engaging through Instagram. You can do Facebook Live, making sure people can submit results, finisher certificates, virtual bibs, giveaways, trying to engage sponsors so that they can say, hey, if you sign up today, we'll give you a $25 gift card to a local restaurant. There's a lot of things that you can do to create mutual engagement between all parties.
No, it's been really good to watch. We've heard a lot of similar things. Some of our race management clients that, were only able to do a virtual event or, just canceled altogether. And we kind of got them into the working through the steps of a virtual event and trying to, do what's possible. And a lot of, like you said, some of the people have really stepped up and helped those local causes, which we as a local business, we love to see that. And we've been trying to help everybody else along the way as well. And RunSignup makes it pretty easy to help. John and Ann do most of it, and I can fumble around in the back end. But I think most people would find it to be a really, kind of a turnkey platform for a virtual event or any kind of fundraiser. Like you said, it doesn't have to be an endurance event.
Yeah.
Wanted to get your thoughts. We're now 8 months into this. Where do you think we are in the next 6 months, and where do you think what does your forecast look like for the following year?
So we see 2021 as the year of the hybrid event. So we kind of coined go virtual. I think we're going to try to coin go hybrid. So we see that there will be some people that want to participate in in-person events, and there's going to be some localities that are going to be able to do that. There's going to be some places that it's going to be heavily virtual or only virtual. So the hybrid just allows for you to say, hey, this event is exclusively virtual, or this event has a in-person and a virtual option. So we see that being very popular. One of the things that we're going to be writing a case study about here in the next couple of weeks is the Richmond Marathon. And the Richmond Marathon is using a multi-use trail. So it's a bike path basically to do a marathon. So they've got timing points and a certified course. So it's an official marathon, half marathon, or 8K that you can go and run on this bike path. And that's going to be another option for the future as well, which is those are much lower overhead events. As you guys know, I mean, as soon as you open the door for Space Coast Marathon, it's like, okay, $50,000 has evaporated as soon as you say that event's happening, which most people don't know that. It's like there's a lot of cost just to get the event open. Whereas these bike path or like, hey, you can run anytime for 12 hours over a weekend events are going to be, I think they're going to be very, very popular in 2021 because people want to go engage with something that's more official. There's still going to be people that want to do virtual because that's what they feel comfortable with. But the response so far with the Richmond Marathon has been extremely positive, where, I was just talking to a friend of mine who lives about 2 hours away, and he said he knew multiple people who were driving 2 hours to come do the Richmond Marathon. So the longer distance events, the marathons and the half marathons, are going to probably be the strongest in-person numbers because there's going to be a limited supply. It's just difficult to put on those events in general, and it's extremely difficult in a pandemic. So our forecast for 2021 is it's going to be light the first half of 2021, and then we expect it to pick up. We're hoping that September is, 60 to 70% of normal in September. That is very dependent upon the vaccines being distributed and there's being the efficacy matching in actual human trials beyond just the small numbers that they've done so far. So if that efficacy expands out to 1 million, 10 million, however many people, that's a good sign. So because the math on this 90-95% vaccine efficacy, if that's really the number that it turns out, even if it's like 80%, so it knocks them off of it, that basically squelches the virus because, it really just lowers the transmission rates down to something very manageable. So we're very excited about the second half of the year, the first half of the year. I expect January, February, and March to have, being optimistic. If we could have as many events as we had this fall, that would be great. Yeah. I'm not that optimistic that we're going to have that many, but I'm hoping. Because the biggest issue in our entire industry is just uncertainty. So if we can work with certainty that, hey, you can have events with 250 people and these are the rules, everybody wants to follow the rules. Everybody wants to just they want to go out and do things, but do it safely. So once we know the rules, which they keep changing, we can operate within those. Right.
What are some of the most interesting or most unique virtual races you've seen? It doesn't have to be a race per se, but a lot of the challenges that have popped up over the last couple of months. I've kept my eye on some of those, like the Run Across America, Run Across whatever state you're in. What are a couple that's really stood out to you that you've seen? Yeah, so this one I definitely kind of have an inside baseball answer for you on this one. Nice. So the Great Race Across Tennessee is the most interesting event, hands down. And so the event has actually been covered by the New York Times. It's been covered by Runner's World, and a bunch of different publications have covered it. So the inside baseball story on this is that the person that put on the event are two people. One is Gary Cantrell and Steve Durbin. Gary Cantrell's alter ego is called Lazarus Lake. Lazarus Lake is one of the most interesting people in running. They put on the Barclays Marathon, which has got a Netflix documentary. And so I know Steve, who's helps with a lot of the races that Laz puts on, as well as he puts on some really cool, Steve puts on some really cool ultra races of his own.
So I called Steve up and said, hey, a lot of people are doing stuff with virtual. Laz has never done anything that was open to the public before. You guys should really think about doing something. And so he kind of says, okay, I'll call Laz and I'll get back to you. And I just moved on with my day. 24 hours later, well, not even 12 hours later, I get this email back that just says we're in. And I have no idea what we're in means. And so Steve starts telling me that, Laz, when in his younger days, had run every single county in Tennessee. So he was a teacher, and during the summers when he was off, he would run every single county. And Steve had done this with him. He was the car guy. He was the drink guy, whatever they needed. And so he wanted to give people a virtual experience of running across the state. And so I had never heard of anything like this. I thought it was kind of a wacky idea, but I knew anything that they put their name on was going to have some level of popularity. Like how many? I had no idea. I mean, we were talking about 300 people, 3,000 people, it's like, okay, whatever. So that afternoon, we just rushed through putting this thing together and just trying to get it out there. And we got it out there 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And within 24 hours, 1,000 people had signed up for it. I think in total, 25,000 people from 40 some different countries had signed up. and if you went into the Facebook group, which the Facebook group is still up, if you go into the Great Race Across Tennessee, there was someone, and I didn't spend that much time on it because I don't use Facebook. So just my wife had it and she was following along with it. And she showed me there was someone at a research facility in Greenland logging their miles. Right. And I'm sure there was better stories than that. Right. That was just the one that she came across. And it just kind of showed you the power of building something. And when I talked to people across the running industry, there was a number of people. One of the dirty secrets about the running industry is that many people in the running industry aren't active anymore. They used to be runners and they're not runners anymore. And all the events stopping plus this challenge created this opportunity for people to get back in shape. I've talked to more people with overuse injuries this year, from, hey, I was only doing 20 miles a week or 10 miles a week. And, well, this challenge thing, I did 60 miles. Like, yeah, that's not a good idea. And then vicariously that led to, stores like Running Zone. Every single independent running store I've talked to, they're not selling any apparel, which is not surprising, but they are selling some shoes. Because people are going out and using the equipment, right? Which is good. So that is by far the best event. We've also had some really interesting other events. We've had a lot of flashpoint events, like we had the Million Miles for Justice event, which is put on by the Civil Rights Series, and they raised an incredible amount of money. So we've had a lot of really good stories to tell. That I wish we could tell them all, but it's kind of hard to get the details on all of them. So that one I knew all the details on, so I thought that one was kind of interesting.
So going back to simpler times, if we could, what's your favorite road race you've ever done? Not a collegiate or high school, but a road race.
So in Richmond, we're kind of blessed that we have the Richmond Sports Backers. So they're a sports commission. So they're a nonprofit. And so they have a lot of different goals. They've expanded their goals. They've been around for 20 something years. And they put on a race called the Monument Avenue 10K. And so it's right in the heart of Richmond. There's these wonderful, row homes with all different architecture and porches, and there's bands on the course. There's the race has been I think the year that I ran it when it was the largest was 42,000 people. Yeah. So it's got huge corrals. There's an elite section. If you get and the corrals are generally by ability. So if you're in the A corral, it's sub 42 minutes for the 10K. So they kind of metered it out so that each corral is kind of its own race. So it's like a 3-minute or 2-minute, spacing so that, and the other cool thing is that you run up one side of the road and then it's median divided. So there can be crowd on the sides of the roads and in the middle, and that the bands are typically in the middle. So when you go out, then you turn around and then you'll come back. You can see the massive humanity on the other side as well. So you're kind of getting both experiences. There's costume contests. Compared to some of the other events like the post-race activities, because this is a family-friendly event, it's not a big drinking party. So maybe that would be a downside for some people, but it's very much a Richmond experience. And then the Richmond Marathon is also awesome as well. It's considered America's friendliest marathon. My favorite part about the Richmond Marathon was that there's a road that's actually really close to the office where I am right now. It's called Fauquier Avenue, and it kind of gets you heading back towards the finish line. And so you can get Coca-Cola and you can get whiskey. So like they're like only about a quarter mile apart. So like if you're really having a bad race, you can have a little bit of Coca-Cola and then wash it down with a little bit of whiskey and you're good to go. You'll get to the finish line.
Nice. Usually people do that in the opposite direction, or you do the whiskey, then the Coca-Cola.
You know, and maybe we should have a discussion with them about some of their policies.
Yeah.
So this is definitely unsanctioned. The sports backers would absolutely say that this does not happen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with like Space Coast Marathon. There's unofficial like bacon and mimosa stops. I ran Space Coast 1 year before I actually started working for Running Zone. And I passed the table where they were handing out, shots of whiskey and vodka. I was like, is this an official stop? But the answer is no. It's not an official stop.
No, some of the residents do. I can confirm that some of the residents do set up a little party station. People have come in the store like over the years, and they're like, "Do you know who it is that's handing out the mimosas and the Bloody Mary stations?" I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. No,
yeah.
we put water and Gatorade out. So that's fun. I've been to Richmond a couple times, never for a race. I did my undergrad at Towson, and in sports medicine. We played Richmond in football a few times, and they whooped us pretty good both times. But that's neither here nor there. The Spiders. Let's talk about some non-running things. You can have pizza or tacos for the rest of your life. Which one are you going with?
Tacos, easy.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah, barbacoa.
Good
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
John's on team pizza.
Yeah, I don't remember what I selected for that question though. I thought I might have gone tacos just because there's a little bit more variability. You can do breakfast tacos, you can do meat, whatever. But
yeah, I mean tacos are kind of a good delivery mechanism.
Yeah,
exactly.
it is.
Yep.
And we got Thanksgiving coming up. So give me your top three, either main dishes, side dishes, desserts.
Yeah. So my favorite dessert is pumpkin pie. My sister makes an incredible pumpkin pie. Kind of staying somewhat in that same vein. So I'm not sure if this is a South thing, but the sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top. So love that. And I'm actually I'm a big fan of, turkey and gravy. Yeah. Again, it's probably more of a Southern thing, but turkey with gravy is an incredible thing. I mean, I know turkey kind of is not the favorite for everybody, but I have it so infrequently, and I definitely have it gravy infrequently, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with any of those. I think I probably would go stuffing. I've had all different kinds of stuffing, all different ingredients made by many different people over the years. And, as long as it's not out of the box, it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I think turkey gets an unfair rap because it's like kind of just there on your plate and you're eating it, but you get the right kind of gravy and you just kind of mix everything together. You can't have separate plates. You got to have everything on one plate and let everything kind of commingle. In my opinion,
I have relatives that actually like the divider plates and they keep everything divided. Yeah. And they actually use a napkin to make sure they stay separated.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is extreme. My wife doesn't typically like anything touching either, but she doesn't go quite as far as divider plate.
I've never met anybody that made homemade coleslaw with Thanksgiving until I started going to Thanksgiving dinner at Don and Denise's house. And she makes a pretty good coleslaw, and little coleslaw of the turkey, and it's nice, and put it on with everything else. So yeah, highly recommend it if anybody's never tried coleslaw with the Thanksgiving dinner. But all right, so when we get out of this pandemic and we're all traveling for leisure, where is your first trip going and why?
So I travel to the North Carolina mountains. So a lot of people from Florida are probably somewhat familiar with where I go, which is around Boone, North Carolina.
Yep.
So when you go to that area. Most of the people that own homes there are from Florida. So it's a very common place to go. So roughly Boone is like 30,000 to 3,500 feet, depending on where you go. So you're getting quite a bit of 75 to 80 degrees, like 80 degrees, like they're like keeling over. They think it's the hottest day ever. So we normally go in the summertime there, do a lot of hiking, tubing, kayaking, just generally anything outside. So there's also a pretty big art scene there. So you can go to art shows and stuff like that. So that's our favorite thing to do. We didn't get to do that this year because North Carolina required 14-day quarantine to enter the state, and our trip was 1 week. So therefore, math did not work in our favor. So that's definitely where we're going because it's hot and humid in Richmond in the summertime. So I like to get out of the humidity for a week or two every single summer to kind of give myself the energy to get through the rest of the summer. So that's where we're going.
Anything else? Oh, sorry. How about anything else going forward? Maybe some stuff that, race event organizers may not have been thinking of pre-COVID. And what we found is a lot of stuff that we're doing, people like the rolling starts. And so any other, I won't call them breakthroughs, but things that kind of came about because of the pandemic, but might stick around aside from the whole virtual category itself.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things in terms of drastically limiting or potentially eliminating race day registration, getting rid of paper registration, potentially, kiosks. Those things I think are gone because it's just, they were a pain to begin with to kind of set up all those machines and manage them. And of course, people have questions, and you have a supercomputer in your hand, in your smartphone. If you want to register with your phone. So I see cash payments going away for that. I also see the possibilities of kind of more assigned start times where you're talking about rolling starts. I definitely can see that. People really like that, because you can give a range of times then. So it's like, hey, between 6 and 8 a.m. you can start the event. That's really attractive for the organizers, especially if it's a course that's been limited in the past, because now it's like, well, there's going to be a bunch of people starting at 6, but you can kind of limit that and then slowly, kind of meter that out. Post race, the whole posting of results, I see that going away. Like, posting the paper on the side of the trailer. I don't see that. Again, that's going to be probably smartphones. I know people like the tablets and stuff like that, but I kind of asked the question of like, okay, well, who's responsible for cleaning those tablets and things like that? And, no one really has time to do all those different things. So I see that going away. The interesting thing will be is how long it's going to take for the 5Ks, which were very, very heavy on the schedules to come back. I don't really know. I've seen some success with some 5Ks, and then I've seen a lot of the events not be able to attract the runners to the 5Ks, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of the 5K events are parties. So that's going to be probably the last part to come back, as anyone who works in the concert industry will tell you. Like, those are gigantic parties. So that's the only thing I have kind of a long-term concern with, is like, when can we start having those parties, which became extremely popular. I know if Space Coast afterwards, I'm sure people hung out for 2 or 3 hours after the event, and you really can't do that. So those types of things are the things that I think may be the last to come back. But a lot of these other kind of infrastructure pieces, potentially even drive-through packet pickups, could be very popular. So I see the infrastructure of races being permanently modified, but hopefully we can bring the party back.
Yeah. And that's kind of all of our events are kind of a party with a little bit of exercise thrown in there. So that is really the hard part, trying to still put on something that, participants enjoy, that they can get something other than just doing the event. It's right. Just trying to, pick and choose what's appropriate and what's not. But thank you so much for your time, for doing this interview, and for everything that RunSignup's done. RunSignup put out that very lengthy and very detailed safety protocol, like what races look like going forward. And we took a lot of those ideas when we built our proposals to our local city and our county, that we've been able to get our events approved by using a lot of that information. So a big thank you to the whole team at RunSignup, and especially to you for all your hard work and always picking up the phone whenever we're panicked because we forgot to check a box or something like that, and registration's already live.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for embracing it, right? Like we can only put stuff out there. Somebody has to do the work, right? And you guys have done the work to make it happen. So I've got my fingers crossed for Space Coast that it all can come together and it goes really well. And hopefully we can write a really cool case study afterwards about how you were able to safely and successfully put on that event.
Yep.
Thank you, Bryan. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.